I'm here to talk about gun education and a few safety tips that are important to me. I think everyone has the right to bear arms, protect their home, and defend their family if that's what they choose to do. But with that also comes a responsibility, and one of the responsibilities is to protect the children in your home or the people who do not have knowledge of proper gun handling. Now, the first thing I would do is, for the adults in the house, going to a shooting range may be a good idea. Teach them the proper way to handle a gun. But for the children in the house, not so much, depending on their age. And if you're like me, I have 3 small children. And teaching them how to handle a gun at this age just is not going to work for our family. So the first thing that my husband and I did when we decided we were going to have guns in our home was to get a safe. And one that they could not pick open, when there was no chance that when we're not home, the babysitter's not watching, they're going to be able to come in here and break this thing open. You can't do it. So with that being said, I feel very comfortable with having weapons in my home because of what they're in. I don't worry about it. First thing is, it has a combination lock. So you got to be able to do that. So if my kids can get into this, they're probably genius enough to already know how to use the gun. So if they were able to break into this, that'd be pretty clever. So don't worry about that. So the 3 basic tips that I'm going to share with you today on gun handling. The first tip is, when you pull the gun out of the safe, is not to point it at anyone. Put it in a safe direction. That could be like this, or I prefer downward. That way, no chance of anyone getting hurt just by me taking the gun out. So I'm going to take the revolver out of the case, and this is how I would hold it. Point barrel end down, so no chance of anyone getting hurt. The second tip that I have that I think is common knowledge to people who are familiar with weapons, but maybe not to people who are not, is you never want to put your finger on the trigger, ever. And that's a natural instinct for a lot of people to want to do that, but that's how a lot of accidents happen. So, barrel down, finger not on the trigger. A third safety tip, just in what I prefer, my opinion is, don't load the gun until you're ready to use it. Now, some people might say, well, how am I supposed to defend my family if my gun's not loaded and someone's breaking in at 2 o'clock in the morning and I have to stumble through the middle of the night and get the gun out and then try to load it. And if you're one of those people, that's what this is for. My husband is one of those people, and he believes in having his weapon loaded and ready to hurt someone who should break into our home and mean to do harm to our family. So that is why we have this safe. So it is safe enough to have our gun loaded and ready to use at all times. So I'm just going to put this away. So those 3 tips were barrel down, finger off the trigger, and unload it until you're ready to use it. So this is going back in the safe. Okay. So now that I've shared that with you, there are a couple of reasons why guns may accidentally discharge, and one would be carelessness, which is someone knowing the proper steps to use, knowing to keep the finger off the trigger, knowing to point the barrel down, but they don't do it anyway. They don't practice the safe handling rules, and sometimes accidental discharge do happen like that, and people are injured, if not killed, by it. And then the second reason for an accident would be lack of knowledge, and that's just someone who has a fear of guns or not, but just doesn't know how the proper ways to handle them. And those are the 2 reasons why most guns do accidentally discharge. Guns only have the power to do what we as humans make them do. So if we handle them correctly and use proper care with them, there will be fewer accidents. And knowledge is power. And usually the people who do not have knowledge about guns and safe handling of weapons are usually the ones that have a great fear of the weapon itself. So if you have knowledge about the guns and you know how to use them the proper way, chances are your fear is going to go way down and you're gonna feel safe in your own home. But the key is keep them locked up in somewhere very safe, because children do like to snoop. They see guns. Unfortunately, there's a lot of toy guns out there these days, and some children may not know the difference. And that's when a lot of really bad things happen. So that, barrel down, finger off the trigger. Don't load that gun until you need it, unless you've got something where your family's safe. Other than that, spread the knowledge about gun safety tips. I'm sure there's a ton more. That was just a few to go over with you today. Thanks for listening.